Today I'm going to do a review on this Eastwood dual voltage powder coating system, and basically I bought this from Frost. I'm in the UK, hence the stupid accent, sorry, hence the marvellous accent, and this is available through frost.co.uk. On its own, just the powder coating kit has been unavailable for quite some time, but when you buy it with the whole kit and shebang for a little bit more money, it is available. So what have I got? Exciting box first of all. Nice little powder coater there, look at that. And some instructions, which of course I will read. Anything underneath? Oh, dual voltage system. Triggers, earth leads. Exciting stuff. Low voltage and high voltage. Instructions. And an American plug, which explains the need for transformer to take us up to 240 volts, which we use here. Okay, so it looks like it's fixed at 110 volts, and this little adapter makes it applicable for our 220, 240 volt system. So what comes as the extras then? So that's what you would buy just as a powder coating bit. This is the extras, so I'm guessing these are just bottles for powder coat. So I've got 1, 2, 3 powder coat bottles and one with black, doesn't say if it's gloss or doesn't say if it's gloss or satin. Interesting, I'll give it a go. What is the worst that's going to happen? Right, then we've got some Fiberglass high temperature masking tape, useful for masking off threads and things. I notice here, exciting bag of bungs and things for masking up. I'm going to say that's a moisture trap. I don't know which way around it should go, but it looks like a moisture trap to me. I've got other moisture traps that I use. And a big reel of stainless steel wire, which I am going to use to suspend the items which I'm going to powder coat. So there's a wedge of stuff in here, not the pump, because that's not going to get powder coated, but all of the fixings for the pump I am. So the pulley wheel, I'm going to give that a go. These brackets and so forth, I'm going to give a go. And this will be our first test. So what do you need? Well, according to the lid on the box, you need a power supply. So you clean, which I'm in the process of doing. So thoroughly strip and clean your metal parts before coating. This can easily be achieved with Eastwood's paint stripper and pre-cleaner degreaser. I'll just use a panel wipe. Using the Eastwood dual voltage powder coating gun, simply apply the powder to the entire part. You can't overcoat. Cleanup requires a broom. Marvellous. Secure your part in an electric oven for about 20 minutes and put the part into service once it's cooled. Remember to use an electric oven that will not ever be used for food again. Also you're going to need, so requirements, you need an air supply, 5 to 10 psi at 1 cubic foot per minute, which is tiny. So my compressor will certainly be able to do that. A power supply, which will obviously be 220 volts. A dedicated electric oven or toaster oven. What's a toaster oven? And use of appropriate respiratory and skin protection is strongly recommended, and eye protection is also advisable. Okay, right. So this is a eBay purchase from ages ago. I picked it up for a tenner. I fired it up yesterday and it works beautifully. And it's a non-fan oven, which I think is going to be quite important because you don't really want to be blowing the powder around. I warmed it up yesterday. I found the instructions because someone's cleaned the instructions off here. So basically I managed to write the temperatures as they appeared and then found the transfer that I could put on it, and I used this. So I know that that's 230 because when I got to here it ran off the top of the gauge here. And then a grill, so I could use a grill if I wanted to, so I could make some toast. No, this is going to be used for powder coating. So there's my oven. He's plugged into a 30 amp supply. Although you could probably run it on 13 amps, but that's your prerogative. So let me, the other thing I've got, of course, is a metal rack, which goes into the oven. So I'm going to suspend things on the rack and use the rack as the earth and the stainless steel wire to attach to the devices. Let's see how it goes. So let me get set up and then I'll video it working, I think. Could be a laugh, couldn't it? So I've been through the instructions, I've cleaned all my parts, I've suspended them from my oven tray. I'm only using the green box just so I can get some gravity, and test lifted and put it into the oven, make sure all the bits don't fall off. They wibble wobble around, but I'm not too bothered about that. As far as the kit is concerned, the gun, dead straightforward. Don't touch the metal nozzle at the end, apparently, when it's plugged in. I'm touching it now, but this thing here is to adjust the spray pattern. And it suggests about 1/4 of an inch off the end. I put a regulator on the bottom of it and a moisture trap. The moisture trap that comes with it, I've got no idea which way around it goes. I don't like moisture traps I can't see in anyway, so I have one of these spare. Pop one of those on. Popped a regulator on it because this thing doesn't want to operate at much more than 8 or 9 psi. 10, definitely not. It's suggesting there's two voltage settings on the front. There's a 15 kilovolt and a 25 kilovolt. Suggests you do most stuff at 15, and it's got very, very deep contours. The stainless wire that I've used here, very, very useful. Just cut off a short length, attached to the part. I've used bungs where there are threads to try and keep it roughly protected. I'm pretty much ready now to powder coat, except for this is misbehaving. It worked all day fucking yesterday. Sorry, it worked all day yesterday, and now it's just popped a fuse. So I'm just going to double check the wiring on it. I suspect the element's tired, and it's just drawing too much current, as happens. Right, so let me get that sorted out. Then what it suggests is you take powder. Don't obviously attach this one to the gun. Put about 1 inch of powder in the bottom of the cup. Attach the cup to the bottom of the gun. You need to have just a dust mask, plastic gloves when you're putting the powder on, but then it's suggesting that while it's curing, there are some toxic chemicals you really could do with a charcoal filter, which I've got here anyway. So it's only during the curing process. So what it says is once you've attached the powder, put the whole tray into the oven until the powder flows, then the oven needs to be at 230 degrees at that point, then turn the oven down to 200 and leave it for 20 minutes, and that is the baking process. Don't be tempted to put any Yorkshires in there at the same time, or perhaps chicken, because it does suggest you don't mix the powder and food. So right, let me get this oven sorted out and I'm going to crack on with this. Sussing out the problem with the oven, it seems to trip out when I want it to go over about 100 or 200 degrees. And I found out, not suggesting you do this at home of course, but obviously with the power isolated, if I disconnect the two brown wires from the top element, there's a bottom element and the top element, and the top element looks like that, it would appear that part of the top element is used for the oven. That wire down the back there is just the thermostat, so I'm going to tuck that back up there. I wondered if it was shorting out against the element. I suspect that this top element has blown or fused itself out. So I'm going to see if I can get another one of those, because it'd be a shame to chuck away a £10 oven because of one element, and they can normally be had for a few quid, but it's just irritating, isn't it? So I'm going to isolate these two brown wires and see if I can get the oven up to temperature again without using the top element. It might work, it might not. So oven would appear to be working. I've got it up to, so this thermostat's not working anymore on the front, but that's reading off the scale there, so I'm assuming that that is going to be, yeah, it's nice and warm. That's nice and warm. Well, I'm going to give it a go. Right, next thing I need to do is to practice moving the tray into the oven, and then, having attached up and tested the powder flow on my gun and attached up the earth and everything, running at a fairly low current, I'm going to test the powder coat. So first and foremost, let's test to see what happens when I try and pick up and move into the oven. Where am I going to do this from? I'll do it from up here. It'll sort of work from up there. I wish I bought my bloody... Oh, it sort of works. Right, okay, so the oven door open, tray lifted, and entered. And it all goes in nicely, and there's no issues at all with that. But I am going to powder coat this lot now. So the next thing I'm going to need to do when I'm powder coating is work out a way of coating this lot, but not in that box. How am I going to do that? I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some cardboard up against the bench. So if I put some cardboard up against the bench, and I can balance the rack on the shelf here, and then powder coat against it while I'm holding with one hand, which is going to make it amusing as far as the video is concerned. But let me get that set up. This might work, we'll give it a go. Right, okay, so all I've done is put some cardboard up here just to protect that. Oh, with the face mask really, the fucking dust mask on. Oh, bollocks. Pause. Come here, you cunt. Oh, it's working. You just rest this up in the box again, chaps. Right, let me show you what I've done. Take that off so you can hear me. So basically, it's applied a fairly uniform black coat of the powder across all of the items. I'm going to put a bit more powder in. And I'm going to put the rack back up the other way round so I can do the other sides. It's impossible to apply too much powder, so let me get this fucking mask off my arsing face. There we are. Right, so more powder. It does suggest 1 inch or 2 inches from the bottom, so let me set this up again. Let's go from down here this time, it might be a bit nearer. Oh, my jack handle in the way! Interesting effect from the light there. There's not a huge amount of powder here. Right, so let me put a little bit more powder in there. Because it wasn't really, powder wasn't really coming through. And then I suddenly realised, oh, hang on a second, maybe it's not coming through. It was a bit disappointing, to be honest. But see, already woofing through. Right, now let's pop that there. Mask back on. Phone back up here again. So, Right, I think that's it. All looks pretty good. If there was any mistakes made at this point, I'd just use an air gun to blow it off. So let me go and slam this lot in the oven now, which you can't see, but I'll come back to you in a minute. I can see the oven open. Right, now I need to have my mask on because it says that there's some nasty chemicals during the curing process. Right, I have a light, but you can't really see anything. So all I'm really doing is just, I'm going to need to open the door every now and then and just find out the point whereby which these powder coat elements start to run. And effectively, the point it stops turning from powder and into a nice coating. I feel like Darth Vader. This is after about 10 minutes. You can see that the powder has now melted. So I've turned the temperature down. It needs to go down to about 190. It needs to go for 20 minutes. So 20 minutes. It will be at 21 minutes past. I'll report back then.
The conversion was my favourite Beethoven symphony on the 7, and it was the West Eastern Design Orchestra conducted by Daniel Barenboim. Now we're going dancing in Spain, so we'll be on Classic FM in the company of Manuel de Falla. Classic FM Drive is you.com. This is a way to compare car insurance. Choose a full star.
So the bits have cooled down now. Initial observations are, it's fucking awesome. Well chuffed. It's come out good. There's a couple of areas where the powder didn't penetrate, and that was largely down to my dusting technique. So I'm going to put a second coat on some of these parts. That one's okay. Some of these parts, just where the powder didn't go on properly. I was probably being too stingy with it. And this stuff's quite cheap, so I'm just going to not worry too much about the cost of the powder and just actually apply it. In fact, that one's just hooked on there, so I'm going to lift that fella off. And how does he come out? This one's fairly well hidden inside the pump. It goes over the nose of the pump, but that one's happy with. That one's happy with. This one here, yeah, probably could do with another lick of powder, so I'm going to pop that one back on its hook because I'm going to do another batch of this stuff now. The other thing I've noticed is the pulley. You can see the pulley there, deep into the groove, no powder at all. The rest of the pulley is really good. So again, what I'm going to do is turn the current up to the higher setting, which is what the book recommends, and coat again. But on the whole, I mean, that bit there, apart from that tiny piece on the back there, it's come out really nicely. Yeah? Not bad, is it? The other trick I learned, by the way, is wait until it's cooled properly after it's curing, because otherwise what happens is, when you touch it, you put a fingerprint in it, like I have done there. So I'm going to clean that back with the flap disc, and then it's going to go back in again and be powder coated. The whole thing I'll powder coat again. The reason you want to take paint off, by the way, is that some paints may not be able to cope with the 200 degrees that the oven is running up to. So what you find is the paint underneath the powder bubbles up and then affects the powder surface. Here's the next batch of odds and sods that are looking to go through. So bits off the alternator. I'm not going to put the alternator in, of course. The other bit I can't put in is the crankshaft pulley damper. And that's because it's got a whacking great big rubber membrane in there, which I don't want to bugger up. And I'm not going to subject that to 200 degrees, 200 degrees Fahrenheit, so centigrade. So that's going to have to get painted. The other pulleys on the crankshaft can get painted because there's nothing to them. I've put the bolts in there. I'm going to tape over the threads so I can get the bolt heads powder coated. And what else was I looking at doing? I was looking at doing something else. Oh yeah, I've got power steering reservoir here. It's going to get a piece of tin foil to put over the top there. I can't put the cap in there because it's got a seal on it, which I can't remove. Obviously, I've removed all the other seals. I'll put them in my box marched Paz. Thank you, Gravity. This box fucking opens. There we are. There's that giant seal there, which I need to find. Here's the cap, and there's a seal in there which I can't get out. So I'm not going to bother powder coating that. It's going to get painted. Let's pick up that bit there that succumbed to gravity. Clean all these bits up, just wipe them over with the cleaner, and then I'm going to go on with the next coat of powder coating. Morning after on the powder coating, yeah, big success here. Well chuffed with this. This stuff has all come out absolutely beautifully. I mean, service prep is important, but these are just engine components. You can see that the higher voltage, or didn't quite get down into the whole of the V, but it's done enough of it. I'm learning on the job, so to speak. What was the other thing? Oh yes, so this is the front crankshaft pulley, and this was quite heavily pitted. Now the powder coat will not fill in pits. It's quite a thin coating, tough coating, but it's very thin. Now for the crankshaft right down at the bottom, I'm not particularly bothered about this one, but if I were bothered about pitting, I would use a filler first of all, but I'd have to find a filler that was suitable for more than 200 degrees of heat. Same with primers. If you wanted to put a thick primer over the top of it, you'd need to find one that was suitable for high temperatures. The rest of this stuff though, come up really nicely. Chuffed with it. Right, going to start reassembling. Oh, interestingly, the damper for the steering, I painted that with Hammerite last night and it's still wet. This stuff dried sort of like, it was well, the time it took it to cool down, which was about 15-20 minutes. It cooled down and it's all ready to assemble now. So I've ordered a load more powder. Well, I found a supplier on eBay that seems to do the stuff, and you buy it by the kilo. And yeah, I'm happy. I'm waiting for that to arrive. Oven did perform, although I need to fit the other element of it to shorten the amount of time it takes to get up to temperature. It did work, but even bits like this that I struggled with the first time, and this had a second coat on it, and it survived that. So yeah, I think all in all, a big success. A thumbs up for the Eastwood dual voltage hot powder coater.